mass media, what early Christians did with the beautiful Roman road system.
Outward and inward, those were the obvious tendencies of American art in the first half of the 20th century. Outward towards new physical realities, the unexplored Western landscape and the new industrialized cities and factories back east. Inward toward a new sense of self, the hidden unconscious, and the way identity was being transformed by mass media. But it turned out to be more difficult to express these perceptions than to experience them. By the second half of the century, it was not enough to represent these outward or inward journeys of the mind and body. Artists became obsessed with the form and language of art itself, and how that paralleled the way in which America had become a visual culture, how America had been transformed from a society based upon making things into one focused on managing information. The first artists to understand this transformation were Marcel Duchamp and Stuart Davis. Duchamp turned ordinary objects into art. Davis was the first to represent the signs of modern life in media rather than in industrial products. Andy Warhol took this approach to its limit. He turned media into art. In the generation after Warhol, artists such as Jean-Michel Basquiat and David Wojnarowicz created a more complex visual language based upon juxtaposing personal expression and mass media. And within those juxtapositions, they revealed what Americans were experiencing at the turn of the 21st century.
The title is intended to draw attention to the fact that a medium is not something neutral. It does something to people. It takes hold of them, it roughs them up, it massages them, it bumps them around.
Warhol, scene one, take one.
So I just love to watch television.
You are about to know the thrill of seeing that which has never been seen before. You're about to enter a beautiful, exciting, wonderful new world. The world of 1960.
By 1960, the whole American culture was watching television.
Off into space. Man, that takes real teamwork. And here's a team of junior spacemen with an out-of-this-world breakfast.
We had people who were really using television and disseminating information through images in a way that never existed before in the history of mankind.
If you would like to ask the senator a question, just call the senator's attractive wife, Jacqueline, at Cedar 259.
For the first time, we had people like Jack Kennedy. He was the first television president. And suddenly, Selma, Alabama, and Vietnam were in your living room. And it wasn't the text we were reading, but it was images we were seeing. And those images were indelible. They were really powerful. And Warhol was very important in our understanding how that works.
Andy, if this segment that we did here now had been for a film of yours, what would it represent?
Faking it for television.
Oh, it's so glamorous.
Warhol's maybe even more important than people think he is. The public maybe just has the persona idea hammered down, and I think they sort of accept him on a Hollywood celebrity level. But I think people ignore his pictures sometimes, and they don't realize how really important that the guy was and how totally original he was.
I hate to go to museums and see pictures of Warhol because they look so important and they don't really mean anything.
Duchamp is kind of the father figure for Warhol, the predecessor.
Art is an outlet towards regions which are not ruled by time and space. To live is to believe.
Duchamp as kind of the gray eminence in the background is very, very influential in American art.
So here you are, Marcel, looking at your big glass.
Yes. And the more I look at it, the more I like it. I like the breaks, the way they come, the cracks. You remember how it happened in 1926?
Yes, I remember hearing.
In Brooklyn, they put the two panes on top of one another on a truck, flat, not knowing what they were carrying, and bouncing for 60 miles in Connecticut. So that's what happened. But the more I look at it, the more I like the cracks because they're not like shattered glass. They have a shape. There's a symmetry in the cracking. The two crackings are symmetrically disposed, and there's almost an intention there, curious intention that I'm not responsible for, ready-made intention, in other words, that I respect and love.
In the whole history of this century, there is a kind of yin and yang between what Duchamp represents and in a way what Picasso, I guess, represents. That is the mastery of drawing and how to lay paint on a canvas and how to structure a canvas. And on the other hand, Duchamp's notion of painting really being about ideas that make all of that fundamentally peripheral.
Painting shouldn't be not only retinal or visual. It should have to do with the gray matter of our understanding instead of purely visual.
He was somebody who deplored stylishness and fashionableness and elegance in art, and particularly when he made his fountain, the work that he showed in 1917 in an exhibition in New York, and in fact it was tossed out as a work because it was seen to be unserious and just a simple piece of American plumbing.
He found a urinal in a plumbing supply store in New York, signed it with an alternate identity, R. Mutt, and dated it, and entered it in the salon. And it was, in effect, a collage of reality unto reality. It was a real object that he put into an art context and forced people to deal with the whole notion of what their expectations were coming to a work of art.
You didn't choose an object because it had some exquisite virtues, but because it had no virtues almost.
The least virtues I could find, and that was the difficulty, to find an object that had no attraction whatsoever from the aesthetic angle.
It is Duchamp, if you will, that gives permission to see aesthetic qualities in such ordinary structures as what goes on in a bathroom.
I think the ready-made is a really revolutionary development in 20th century art. It opened the doors for a lot of work, you know, that came later.
For all that Duchamp wanted to get away from retinal painting, to shift the emphasis onto the concept and the idea, and he lived in a society which was profoundly engaged in industrial manufacture. The toilet bowl is a perfect metaphor for it. If you think of Andy Warhol as the heir to Duchamp, Andy Warhol is the sage of an era which has left industrial production and become an information world.